my fellow Americans. If you think you know politics, think again. I'm Michael Cohen, and every week on When You Know, we're pulling back the curtain on power, politics, media, and the people making headlines. On my new WABC radio show, you'll hear conversations from names that you know. People like Jerry Falwell Jr., Anthony Scaramucci, Alan Dershowitz, and many, many more. Maybe, just maybe, we'll even hear from the president. No scripts, no spin, just real conversations with people who were in the room where it happened. And trust me, we've got some very big surprises coming. Look, I've spent years at the center of politics, controversy, and power. I know the players, I know the stories, and now I'm bringing you inside. When You Know, Sundays at 5 p.m. on WABC Radio, and When You Know Unleashed, wherever you get your podcasts. Because with me, you never know who's going to show up.
Well, let's get a view of what's going on in Middle America. Let's go to Michigan, and with us today is Rob Steele, and he's one of the national committeemen from Michigan. And in every state, the Republican Party has one woman, one man, to give us the pulse of what's going on in Michigan. Well, Rob Steele, give us the pulse of what's going on in Michigan and how they feel about our country and how they feel about what's going on in the world.
Well, first, John, it's exciting to be on Katz and Cosby, and we appreciate you bringing info from around the nation, to Red Apple Media listeners and Talk Radio 77 WABC. And, of course, it is appropriate you talk about giving the pulse because I happen to be a practicing cardiologist, so that worked out well. But, so the RNC, we're entirely focused on giving Trump all the tools he needs to be successful in his last 2 years, continuing abundant, cheap energy, a secure border, manufacturing jobs, law enforcement, prosecuting fraud, all the things that we want to have. And, of course, the SAVE Act we need. But, for Trump in the last couple of years, we need to have the Senate so he can appoint more judges. We see some of the crazy decisions that some of these judges make. And so we need a bigger group of judges appointed by Trump. And we know that he's endorsed a few candidates that kind of go against the insider Senate group. So there'll be a little more America first and probably help us get the SAVE Act. And of course, we have to hold the House, and that's not easy in the midterm. I mean, many of your listeners know that the presidential party in power typically loses seats in the midterm, but your listeners should not give up and don't be woe is me about anything they hear in the media on national numbers, because the battle's in 25 districts. This is not a national election. Most of the districts aren't competitive in either direction, so we're going to be entirely focused on these districts that are in play. And so the RNC, everything they do with the president, it hinges on two things. When we look at it, spending a dollar, does it turn out the vote and does it protect the ballot? And so in these battlegrounds, we have full election integrity staff and full political staff. And in fact, we're involved in over 135 lawsuits around the country in 35 states trying to make it easier to vote and harder to cheat. And of course, moving on to Michigan here, the Department of Justice.
Well, let me ask you one question. What is the pulse? There's a big Democratic revolt going on with the socialists trying to attack the regular Democratic Party. What is the pulse of the Democrats around in Michigan? Or do you have migrants coming in trying to vote? Do you have common sense Democrats trying to maintain the status quo? Give us your analysis on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Democrats in Michigan are just like the Democrats everywhere. They've gone insane. We have a hardcore Democrat socialist wing of the Democrat Party in Michigan, and we have what, the media, well, how great would it be to be a Democrat, referred to as moderate Republicans or moderate Democrats who vote for open borders and all the crazy things they vote for, men and women's sports and all that. But the socialists in Michigan, at their recent Democrat state convention, they just nominated an attorney general candidate that wants to defund the police and have no cash bail. All the Jewish candidates were booed heavily when they were on stage. And one of the University of Michigan leader positions called the University of Michigan Regent, there's been extreme pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli protests there. And at the state convention, attorney Amir Maklid, who has posts praising Hamas leaders as martyrs and has represented the U of M pro-Palestinian protesters, defeated a very leftist.
Who's winning in the Democratic Party? Are the socialists moving in, or the common sense Democrats are retaining their control?
Well, this is what I'm trying to say. The Democrat State Convention just nominated a socialist pro-Palestinian person who defeated a Jewish regent whose house was vandalized by Palestinian protesters. Their governor candidates, they have Abdul El-Sayed running for U.S. Senate. They have governor candidates that are George Soros leftists behind the scenes trying to keep the voter rolls dirty and fighting like crazy. So it's just like here. I mean, their Senate candidate is been endorsed by Bernie Sanders, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ro Khanna, all the typical things. And so it is exactly in Michigan, like it is in many places, where the Democrat socialists are making great progress against what people typically want to refer to as moderate Democrats.
Well, Rob Steele, any gut feeling what's going to happen in November?
Well, I think we have 3 U.S. seats in the House of Representatives open, which are being contested by the DCCC, a great candidate, and U.S. 7 with an AOC Bernie candidate endorsed against him. He's Tom Barrett for Congress, an Army pilot. We have an open seat that they're spending a ton of money in, where we have a couple of good candidates, and, of course, our U.S. Senate seat. You've had Mike Rogers on, fabulous candidate, and his opponent has been endorsed by AOC and Bernie and Rashida, and wants Medicare for all, abolishing ICE, decreasing funding for the police. But we've got a citizen-only voting amendment coming onto the ballot in November, so we hope that motivates some people. We have data that suggests that's true. So, Michigan is in play. It's crazy to think, but out of the last 132 years of U.S. senators in the state of Michigan, only 18 years out of the last 132 years have been Republican. So this open U.S. Senate seat is one of the key things. It's our greatest chance for a pickup here in the United States to help flip a seat from Democrat to Republican.
Rob Steele, we're out of time. Thank you for coming on this Sunday morning, and we'll catch up with you again real soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. Keep at it. We appreciate your efforts.
Bye-bye.
Get ready, Staten Island.
The Ferry Hawks are back at SIUH Community Park July 7th to the 12th for a 6-game series against the High Point Rockers. Tonight, first pitch is at 6:30. It's Thirsty Thursday with $5 Bud and Bud Light Drafts. Friday, July 10th, first pitch is at 7 p.m. May the Force be with you on Star Wars Night with post-game kids glow around the bases with special lightsaber training packs.
Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.